Nan no nioi? What's that smell? Oh, I know, it's hinoki. Hinoki is this type of Japanese wood, and it smells delicious. Actually, not delicious, it smells very aromatic and very pleasant. I think I'm used to saying delicious, but that's because I'm always thinking about food. Anyways, if you're in the market for a tofu maker kit, this Yamako Tofu Maker Kit is what we're going to be talking about in my little product review today, so stay tuned. Konbanwa, Pat Tokuyama here, creator of the Japanese Cooking Club, where I help people learn how to make plant-based Japanese food. Today we're going to be doing a little product review, and I have two of these Yamako Tofu Kits, and these are made of hinoki, which smells very pleasant despite what you might have thought when you initially started this video. And this is essentially what it has come with. If you get this particular kit, you're going to get some nigari. This is the coagulant that's going to be used to thicken the soy milk into tofu. You're also going to be getting a set of Japanese instructions, which is what I have here. But don't worry, if this is in Japanese and you can't read it, there are other places that you can find how to make tofu, including my soy milk, tofu, and okara workshop. Okara, if you didn't know, is the soybean pulp that is left over from making soy milk, and you can actually use it for a variety of different foods, and you don't want to waste that. So that would be mottainai, which is wasteful in Japanese. Anyways, going back to this product, the tofu kit, like I mentioned, comes with these three things, as well as these cloths. So there's a thick cloth and a thin cloth. So the thin cloth is what you're going to be using to press the tofu and form it into its block shape. So this one's going to go here. You're going to pour the soy milk that's been had the nigari added to it, and then you're going to put this top part on with some sort of a weight. You can use like a jar filled with some water, or even a can, like a can of beans or a can of tomatoes, and that'll help to press out the excess water from the tofu and press it into a block of tofu. So this is the thin cloth. And then this does come in three pieces, I guess backing up a little bit. This bottom piece with the little cross pieces of wood is going to go on the bottom. So this box rests on top of it. And this is the other piece that goes on top because it doesn't have the bars of wood going across the side, so it fits inside the box, and that's going to be it. And then if you're wondering, there's the other cloth. This is a thicker cloth. This is actually going to be used to strain the soy milk. So when you cook the soy milk, you're going to be cooking the soybeans in water, and then you're going to puree it, and then you're going to be straining it with this. The reason that this is a little bit thicker than this one is because you don't want all of the soybean solids to go through into your milk. That's why this is a little bit thicker. And if you want, you can also use a nut milk bag. That's what I actually use because I feel like my nut milk bag is a little bit easier to clean than this thing. And that's essentially it. So if you've never made tofu before, it's pretty straightforward. And if you've made soy milk before, or if you haven't, that's also pretty straightforward as well. And a really quick high-level summary, basically you soak some soybeans in water to rehydrate them. Then you're going to cook it, then you're going to puree it in a blender, and then you're going to cook it again, and then you're going to strain it, and then you're going to add some nigari, which is this, the coagulant, that's going to thicken it up. You're going to pour that into here, and then you're going to press it, and then in about 10 to 15 minutes, or longer if you want firmer tofu, you'll have your block of tofu. And homemade tofu, if you've never had it before, it's very delicate. It's full of umami, like it's a very subtle umami or sweetness, and there's nothing quite like it. So if you've never made tofu at home and you're into Japanese food, I would highly recommend that you give it a try. And I have my little soy milk tofu and okara workshop to teach you all about it. So I'll link that in the description below if you're interested. And in terms of the pros and cons of this particular tofu making kit, I have a few that I wanted to share with you. So some cons of this tofu kit, the tofu maker. One is that it's made with hinoki wood. So hinoki wood takes a little bit more care and maintenance as compared to something that's made of plastic or something that's made of steel. For example, you can't just let this soak in some dirty dishwater. It's going to absorb the water, and that might cause it to warp or discolor and or absorb some of those unpleasant odors. So you want to make sure that you wash it thoroughly, you rinse it thoroughly, and then that you dry it thoroughly. And chances are this will last you a while. The second con would be that it's a very specialized device. So aside from making tofu, I don't think you could really use this for too many things. I've never really considered using this to make anything else aside from tofu. So maybe you can tell me if there's something that you could use this for. Perhaps you could use it to make yogurt, to strain it out because there's a lot of drainage holes there. So that's the second con, is that it's a very specialized device meant to be used for only one type of food, which is tofu. The third con is that the manual or the instructions only come in Japanese, but if you can read the numbers, which chances are you can also read the pictures. That'll give you an idea somewhat on how to make tofu, and if you've Googled it online or maybe even done some YouTube searches, or if you've taken my tofu workshop course, you'll know exactly what you're supposed to do to make tofu at home. So the fourth con for this is that the size is somewhat small, so depending on how much tofu you're going to be making or how much you want to eat, if you're going to be making it for other people, for example, this only makes about 1 block, roughly. You can obviously fill it up to the top to make a really thick block, but I actually got two of these so that I could double my output and make tofu twice as fast. So that might be something that you want to consider too if you're interested in being more efficient, or if you very much enjoy tofu like me. All day I eat tofu. And then the fifth con would be that these are not dishwashable. Because they're made of wood, you need to hand wash it. It's delicate wood, and you need to take care of it. Now let's talk about some of the pros. One is that it's made of HINOKI wood. So yes, I know it's a con, but it's also a pro because it smells good, for one. The other thing is that HINOKI wood is actually antibacterial, which is another good thing. And then a second pro is that this is very well designed for this particular task. And specifically, you can see that it's got these 3 pieces which fit seamlessly with each other. Also, the drainage holes are very well positioned toward the bottom for the container that goes on the side, as well as these on the bottom. And it's very easy to use, which would be the third, I guess, pro. All you got to use is the thin cloth, like I mentioned initially, and then make sure to put it into the bottom so that all 4 corners are in each of their corners so that your piece of tofu is not lopsided. The fifth pro is going to be that you can actually make your tofu as firm or as soft as you'd like. So depending on how long you're going to be pressing the tofu, obviously, the longer that you press it, the more water is going to come out, and the firmer that it'll be. Obviously, if you want very soft tofu, also known as kinugoshi tofu, you're gonna actually have to steam it, which is a different process, and you won't necessarily need the tofu making kit. But if you want more of a firm tofu like you use in your cooking, then this is something that you'll want to consider. So let me know if I missed anything. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And question of the day, if you've been looking for a tofu making kit, or if you've always wanted to start making tofu, let me know if you think you'll be trying to use this kit. And if not, is there an alternative that you're looking at instead? I'd be curious. So let me know in the comments below. So I guess before we wrap things up, as usual, I wanted to share a few tips of mine for using this particular tofu kit. One is regarding the nigari. Different types of nigari exist in the supermarket and in the world. So if you're going to be using the liquid or the powdered version or any other kind of type of nigari, you want to be careful to dilute it according to the instructions so that you don't get too much of a bitter flavor in your tofu, which can happen if you add too much, or your tofu doesn't coagulate all the way because you didn't add enough. Also, when you're using nigari, your chances are you're going to have to dilute it in some water, so make sure that you do that correctly as well. The second tip is going to be to make sure that you are very gentle when you're transferring your soy milk to the tofu making kit after you coagulate it, because those curds are very delicate, and if you're very rough or aggressive with it, you might break up those delicate curds and you might not get a firm piece of tofu. Third thing is going to be to test the duration of the weight that you're going to be putting on here. Like I mentioned previously, the longer that you're going to be pressing the tofu, the more water is going to come out and the firmer that it's going to be. The fourth tip is going to be to make sure that you taste your tofu as soon as it's done, because when it's slightly warm still, it's going to have a very different flavor as compared to when it's cooled off or you put it in the refrigerator overnight. So the fifth tip is going to be to, once you've finished pressing the tofu, is to get a nice big giant bowl of water and then transfer the finished block. So assuming this is a finished block, transfer this into the finished water and then unwrap it gently, and then you can let it soak in the water for about 15 to 20 minutes, and that'll help to improve the flavor, especially if you're sensitive to the bitter flavors of the nigari. So nigari can be bitter if you're sensitive for some people. Those are all the tips that I had for you guys today. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this one, and in particular more about Japanese cooking, subscribe if you haven't already. If you're interested in learning more about tofu and how to use soy milk as well as tofu and okara in your Japanese cooking, consider taking a look at the soy milk tofu and okara workshop that I put together. And anything else that I forgot to mention, I'll put in the description below or in the blog. So make sure to check that out if you haven't already. All right, that's gonna be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care. Bye bye. And the reason that it's thicker, or that it's twice as thick as this, the reason that it's having trouble speaking there.